local communities are taking back what is rightfully theirs. And that means taking control of their local politics, taking control of the local school curriculum, and all of these things that the federal government has, frankly, weaseled its way into in the past few years, more and more and more. Things that are not voted on, administrative states trying to take over, secretaries trying to push their way in. Well, enough already. Peggy Little is a senior counsel for the new Civil Liberties Alliance, joining me here to discuss the United States Department of Education's effort to influence priorities in the classroom, saying, quite frankly, it's unlawful. Peggy, good to have you here. Now, what are some of the concerns that you are having when it comes to the Department of Education? What are you concerned about?
The fact that it is listing priorities at all or setting curriculum at all, it is plainly unlawful. I'm old enough to know that there was a time there was no federal Department of Education. I also know that when it was founded, a condition of its founding was that all curricula, programming, courses of study, instruction, etc., would be set by state and local authorities, not federally top-down.
Right.
That was part of the founding of the Department of Education, and subsequently 2 similar statutes were passed. One of them said they can't control curriculum through grants in aid as well.
Right. Yes, Department of Education, I believe, was created when Jimmy Carter was president, if I'm not mistaken. And since that time, test scores in America have not improved. America standing educationally against its peers across the world has not improved. In fact, it's receded in many areas. It seems to me the Department of Education's focus is in all the wrong places. We spend all sorts of money and do all sorts of things with money. Like during the pandemic, we shovel money at schools, even if they're not open, but it doesn't do anything to improve education. Reading, writing, and arithmetic continue to fall behind, but gosh darn it, we can be woke, can't we?
Well, it is troubling that we are, as of a 219 study, something like 30th in math, 8th in reading, and 11th in science. Those are concerning. Those are core things that people need to learn. But people also need to learn their history and their civics, and that should be taught as part of their education as citizens. The problem I have with the Department of Education doing this is that curriculum must be set locally.
Absolutely. People want control of their local school districts, and we've seen governors like Ron DeSantis in Florida, Greg Abbott in Texas say, we're not going to teach critical race theory here. In fact, we're going to specifically ban this teaching that America is an evil place and that kids in kindergarten, the white kindergartner is an oppressor and the black kindergartner is a victim. We're going to stop teaching that kind of garbage. We're going to stop teaching American citizens to hate each other from the time they're little kids, which, my gosh, is the most grotesque thing I've ever seen in my life. I find it absolutely gut-wrenching that this goes on, but the way to stop it is to get the federal government out of the classroom, in part, isn't it?
It is, although this curriculum is also being taught in private schools, and if you read some of the accounts, including one by Mr. Rossi at a private school, it's heart-wrenching. He refused to do this because it meant segregating his students by race and then teaching them different curricula. And he said this is only going to increase racial tension. Yeah, he lost his job.
Yeah, so why would you separate kids and give them a different education? The whole separate but equal thing was kicked out by 1965, was it not? Was that not part of what we did in America with the Civil Rights Act? Separate but equal, separating kids by color would not be tolerated? Didn't Dwight Eisenhower federalize the National Guard in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957 to make sure the schools were integrated? I mean, there is a place for the federal government, and there's also a place for the federal government not to be. Am I right or wrong?
You're right, and I was going to say the separation of students by race has been unlawful since 1954 in the Brown v. Board of Education case. It is simply, I've always thought that case was best understood as separate is inherently unequal. And when children need to be separated by the color of their skin, something has gone terribly wrong. But the problem is that is how we understand that much of this curriculum is being taught, by isolating groups and separate racial groups with which they identify. It has different things that are being taught to the different groups. One is treated as if they're oppressors, the others as if they're victims and the oppressed. And it's a very unhealthy thing to inculcate children at that age that these are their roles. It only cements racial disharmony.
I agree with that. And what we need in this country is a lot more together. As Teddy Roosevelt aptly put it more than 100 years ago, a hyphenated American is no American at all. So stop it. Let's start being Americans all together. And I think the 26th President of the United States was spot on that measure. I'll give you the last word.
Well, one point I want to make is that the Federal Department of Education shouldn't be telling us how we teach math or science. That is to be decided by the local boards of education. And one of the things that federalizing of educational curriculum does, when you don't have a centralized curriculum, as they do in some countries, and those countries are hardly models of good education, is that you have top-down control in how a nation thinks. Whereas if control is local, then if there's a mistake, such as separating children by race, that a local board adopts, that mistake will be confined to the 1 or 2 districts in which it happens. When you federalize it, you nationalize.
That's right.
All of the mistakes in that.
Peggy, we got to leave it right there. Peggy Little, Senior Counsel for the new Civil Liberties Alliance. Thank you for the insight. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.